Hi there, it's Ina here and welcome to my art room. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, and please push the bell icon so you will receive notification of all my regular uploads. Today I want to experiment with a textured abstract. For that I use a recycled black canvas. I also use a small white canvas board, some pieces of fibers like simple cotton fabric I ripped into strips, a piece of burlap, and after I figured out where I want everything, I will glue it down using my tacky glue. Now I enjoy working on my abstracts and I want to bring that 3D element into it. I have no clue what I'm doing here. I'm just taking it one step at a time. But what can go wrong with texture and color? And I'm open to learn. Now, because I'm working on a canvas, I want to use light elements to create texture like fibers. I will use some beads, some texture paste, and I will also create some elements from my dried old texture paste. Now, the ideal thing is to use air-dried clay, but I didn't have anything on hand, and this idea was swimming around in my head and I didn't want to wait. I happen to have some old texture paste which just about dried up and it worked okay. It is a little messy. I don't necessarily recommend it. I think if you have air-dried clay, it will make your job way easier. So here's what I'm talking about. As you can see, it's pretty dry, but there are some pieces in the center which are still very moldable. So that's what I'm going to use to create some texture. Now, I should have known better and not relied on the clay, which is pretty dry, to attach itself to this canvas without some help. So after I create the first couple of little designs, I realized this is not going to stick. And I took everything back off and started again. And here you see what I mean. Everything comes off in bits and pieces, and I will recycle all those pieces, mainly because I have a limited amount of this dry stuff available, and I want to make it work for me. And next I use a fresh container of the same type of texture paste, which by the way is really coarse but works great for this project. And this paste helps me to reattach the little pieces, to smooth out the shapes and the little edges, and to also add extra interest to the rest of the background. And as I said before, a bit messy, but lots of fun. So I'll let you listen to some music and I will pipe in my necessary latest by the time I start coloring everything. So I finished covering everything in gesso off camera, as it's a pretty simple process, and I made sure I get into all the little corners and crannies, and then I let it dry, and now I'm using my primary element pigment powders together with some medium. Now, often when I work on textured pieces, I prefer working with a dry brush and my acrylic paints, but I just wanted to work wet and I wanted to explore these colors as they are very vibrant and yet transparent. I do want to preserve the black gesso effect, and so I will work gradually with these powders. Now, the reason I added white to the smaller canvas is for effect and just to see how I can get a nice graduation of colors depending on what background they land on. And just like the steps I took with the texture paste, the coloring of this took me even longer. So I'm speeding a lot of it up. I edit out a lot, but I think you get the idea. So enjoy the next part, and I'll talk to you in just a few minutes. And next I added some black acrylic paint to those circles to make them pop, and the acrylic paint, it's enamel paint, gives it a bit of a shine. But then I went back to my black gesso for the edges of the canvas. I painted all four of them, of course, but I left out the part where the fabric was visible because it had a great color already. Here I'm adding a little touch of liquid glitter. Now this glitter has a bit of a turquoise shine to it, so I thought it fit rather well. And now a little bit of my silver rub-on. Now this stuff is really potent. You have to take very, very little, and you have to make sure you really want it because it doesn't rub off, it only rubs on. You can of course paint over it. So I gave just a tiny bit to those beads and to those half circles. So here's my final piece, and my camera is really not picking up the vibrancy of these colors. I even turn off the lights to see if that helps, but I think you can see it more clearly on the photos, which I of course will add at the end. So I had a lot of fun with this project. I really learned a lot, especially what not to do, and I hope you enjoyed your time with me here. See you soon again, and bye bye for now.